exclusively regulated by the different states. There are four main types of business entities in the U.S. Sole proprietorships, partnerships, limited liability companies, the LLCs, or corporations. For establishing a new office in the U.S., usually the LLC or a corporate structure is recommended. Limited liability companies, LLCs, and corporations, let's look at the strategic considerations in selecting the appropriate structure for you. A limited liability company is a hybrid of a corporation and a partnership. It combines the features of both. LLCs are extremely flexible. They can be used for a wide range of business and business activities. The members, equivalent to shareholders or partners, can but need not have limited liability. Also, they can but they need not have managers. These are the equivalent of directors and officers. And they can elect to be taxed either as corporations or as partners, if they have two or more members. Or they can be disregarded for tax purposes and be taxed as a sole proprietorship. Like partnerships, LLCs can be as simple or complex as the members desire. Depending on state law, an LLC can have the same limited liability for members as a corporation. Or some members may have limited liabilities and some have no limited liability, like a limited partnership. Or even some may have no limited liability for any members, like a general partnership. Unlike corporations, though, some states require that their LLCs designate a date in the future at which the LLC will automatically dissolve. Some states also require that if a member dies, goes bankrupt, or meets some other calamity, the remaining members of the company must either dissolve or vote to continue. Let's look at some of the facts. What is a limited liability company? The limited liability company, the LLC, is a hybrid of a corporation and partnership, combining the features of both. An LLC is extremely flexible and can be used for a very wide range of businesses. What papers do I need to file to form an LLC? You need to prepare and file the Articles of Organization with the state, along with the requisite filing fees, initial franchise taxes, and any other initial fees required by the state. Do I need an attorney to form an LLC? While it is not necessary to employ the services of an attorney to form your LLC, it may be advantageous to have a discussion with an attorney or a tax advisor to avoid some of the common errors and to ensure that you choose the correct legal entity for your situation and to file the appropriate documentation. Are there other guidelines for naming my entity? Yes, the name of your business entity must not match or be too similar to the name of any established company in your desired state. The chosen name must also contain some indicator that the business is a distinct and separate entity. Almost every state requires and accepts identifiers such as incorporated, corporation, company, or limited. Can I be the sole member of my LLC? Most states now allow a single member LLCs. However, the IRS may treat a single member LLC differently from one which has more than one member and may tax them differently. How is an LLC managed? An LLC is generally managed by its members. However, it may also be managed by selected managers. Management by members operates much like a partnership, where each member has equal rights in the management decision. In certain cases, the members may choose or elect a manager or managers. This is more like a corporation's board of directors, and the managers are in charge of the management of the affairs of that LLC. What are the advantages of an LLC? The main advantages of an LLC are 1. The limited liability of its members, 2. Its flexible management structure, 3. Its flexible ownership, 4. The transferability of ownership may require the consent of the majority of the members, and 5. Tax benefits in certain situations. Let's now look at corporations. Incorporations, or often called corporations, are more complex than partnerships or sole proprietorships. They are a new entity. A new entity is created, creation of that new corporation. A corporation corporation is an entity that is separate from its owners, so that regardless of what happens to the shareholders, the corporation continues until it is legally dissolved. Depending upon state law, a corporation can be owned by just one person or have just one director and one officer. The owners of a corporation are known as the shareholders. The shareholders will elect directors, and those directors will set the policies of the corporation and represent the interests of the shareholders. The directors will appoint the officers of the corporation to manage the day-to-day operations. Corporations are legally required to follow more formalities than other types of business entities, and includes holding annual meetings of the shareholders, annual meetings of the directors, as well as board approval of most significant acts by the corporation. Because a corporation is separate from its shareholders, for example, even if only one person is the shareholder, director, and officer, that person cannot just take company funds for himself or herself without documenting the reason and entering a board resolution into the corporate records. Taxation of a corporation is much more complex than for sole proprietorships or partnerships. Depending on the number, residency, and type of shareholders, a corporation can elect to be treated for tax purposes as if it were a partnership. These are known as S corporations, and therefore not pay any taxes at the corporate level, or it can be treated as a taxable entity, the C corporation. Okay, let's look at some frequently asked questions. What are the advantages of incorporation? The main advantage of incorporation, and there's several of these, the limited liability of its shareholders, perpetual succession, that means that the unlimited life and it's independent of its members or owners. The raising of capital is relatively easy. Easy transferability of ownership. Centralized pool of management. 2. Is it necessary to hire an attorney for incorporation? Again, while it is not necessary to employ the services of an attorney to form your corporation, incorporation entity is complex, and it involves the handling of many issues that have a lot of legal implications. The advantages to having a discussion with an attorney or tax advisor to avoid errors and ensure that you choose the correct entity for your situation and get the proper documentation then are many. Is there any minimum capital requirement to start a corporation? No, in most states there is no minimum capital required other than the state filing fee for incorporation. How long does this entire process for incorporation take? That'll depend on the state where you're filing. Different states have different processing times depending on the workload of the state office that processes incorporations. The time taken for the incorporation process depends upon the state in which the business is incorporated. A few states require notices to be published in newspapers upon the formation of that corporation. Are there any specific guidelines for selecting the name of the corporation or other entity? Again, yes. The name of your business entity or corporation must not match or be too similar to the name of an existing company already established in the desired state. The chosen name must also contain an indicator that the business is a distinct and separate entity. Again, almost every state requires and accepts such identifiers as incorporated, corporation, company, or limited. Let's look at strategic considerations in selecting the appropriate structure. Selecting the most suitable legal business structure is the first and foremost step in setting up a new business in the U.S. The decision depends on various factors. These include capital involved, the nature of the business, the nature of ownership, legal formalities involved, tax issues, management and control issues. The following points highlight the distinction between the major types of business entities. Formation. Sole proprietorship and partnerships may not require filing in some states. However, to establish an LLC or corporation, state filing is required. Management. In a sole proprietorship, full control of management and operations rests with the proprietor, the owner, whereas in a partnership, generally each partner has equal control unless there is some agreement to the contrary. The management and control of an LLC is outlined by the operating agreement between the members. Finally, a corporation is managed by its directors. These are elected by the owners, i.e. the shareholders of the corporation. Raising capital. Raising capital from external sources is often difficult for a sole proprietor, and he has to depend upon his own contributions. In a partnership, contributions can be invited from the partners, or a new partner may be added who may bring in his share of the contribution. LLC members can raise capital by selling interests. However, it is subject to the operating agreement. Finally, the corporation has the option of raising capital through the issuance of additional shares. Liability. This is one of the big issues. Sole proprietors and partners have unlimited liability. That means that their personal assets are at risk. Whereas members of an LLC may not be liable for the debts of the LLC. In the corporation, the liability of shareholders is generally limited to the extent of the value of the shares purchased. They may not be held personally liable for the debts of the corporation. Finally, existence. A sole proprietorship dissolves if the sole proprietor dies or discontinues his business. A partnership dissolves with the death or withdrawal of a partner, unless the partnership agreement contains contrary provisions. The duration of an LLC depends upon the requirements imposed by the state where it's been formed. The major advantage of the corporation lies in its perpetual existence. Tax issues. There are different tax rules that will apply to each different type of entity. Generally, sole proprietorships, partnerships, and LLCs are taxed at the individual level, where the corporation is taxed at the corporate level, with dividends being taxed a second time at the individual level. There are several taxes you have to account for when establishing a business in the U.S. These taxes could be at the city, county, state, and federal levels. All right, let's conclude. Setting up a new business in the U.S. can be quite exciting, but there are also many challenges. An in-depth market research and planning can minimize your risks. You must weigh all your options, analyze all the possible situations, and select a reliable service provider who will guide you through this entire process. Generally, L1A intercompany transferee visas are used for setting up a new business in the U.S. when it is a subsidiary, parent, or branch, or some other affiliate of an overseas company. However, foreign nationals from countries with certain treaties with the U.S. have the choice of also using the E1, the E2, or the L1 visa for establishing those new offices in the U.S. VisaPro handles the formation requirements of your new business in the U.S. and also helps you obtain new office space and files your visa petitions to enable you to enter the U.S. and take care of your newly established business. Our team of professionals, strong service culture, quality service, and timely response ensure that everything related to your new office is handled professionally, completely, and in a timely fashion. If you have any questions, contact VisaPro to learn more about how we can help